You need to remember that you're not gonna build an unforgettable brand by going viral. You build it by being so emotionally resonant and so clear about who you are and who you're for that people feel you before they even realize that they like you. And most people miss that. Welcome to our channel. So obviously you clicked on this video, you know that we're going to be diving deep into how to build a magnetic brand that people are obsessed with. This isn't just for product-based brands or service-based brands. This can also be for personal brands. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you sell. There is a literal framework to creating brands that people obsess over. It's definitely not magic and it's not luck like a lot of people think. And I'm going to be walking you through the exact steps so that you know how to do it for yourself. Considering this is our very first YouTube video, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Kami and I'm the owner of Self the Agency. We are a creative agency based in Miami, working with clients all over the US, basically making cool ass content and building brands that people are obsessed with. So first, before I teach you how to build a magnetic brand for yourself, let's talk about what even makes a brand magnetic to begin with. So magnetic brands, they pull you in without even trying. They make you feel something. It evokes a feeling and it almost feels like it's an effortless thing that they're doing. Let's take Rhode as an example. Why does Rhode sell out every single time they drop something? Why did the company get bought for nearly $2 billion, even though it's considered a new brand and there's so many other brands in their industry that are pretty much alike? Why does this brand feel less like skincare and more like a status symbol? Because Rhode isn't just skincare. It's an emotion, it's a mood, and it's essentially a lifestyle cue that says, I'm simple, I'm a minimalist, I take care of myself, I am her. And the reason that works is because the brand was built to mirror a specific identity. It mirrors how the audience wants to feel about themselves: clean, effortless, minimalist, chic. Every single brand decision, from the colors to the content to the influencers they partner with to their campaigns, it all mirrors the same identity. And it all feels cohesive emotionally, physically, and psychologically. So yeah, people buy the lip gloss, but they're not just buying lip gloss, they're buying a little piece of who they want to be. And obviously this isn't just about Rhode, right? Like, this is something that all magnetic brands do, whether they're selling water, whether they're selling tech, whether they're selling coaching services. They all do the same thing. They don't just get attention, they create emotional patterning. They make people feel something familiar, safe, aspirational, and then they just do it again and again and again and again. And that's the difference between a pretty brand and an obsession worthy one. And now I'm gonna show you how to build your own magnetic brand without necessarily obviously needing a celebrity name or a huge budget, because I'm telling you, all of these things are psychological and you can do them yourself. This is what I call the 3 R's of brand obsession: resonance, recognition, and repetition. If you want people not just noticing your brand, but remembering it, being obsessed with it, buying from it time and time again, talking about it, thinking about it, you need all 3 R's. Let's start with number 1, which is resonance, aka mirroring identity. Resonance is when your brand mirrors something that your audience wants to feel or already feels. This is identity psychology. People fall in love with not just your brand, but what your brand makes them believe that they are. You're not just saying, here's what I sell, you're saying, here's who this is for, and this is how they see the world. This is when brands make you feel like, damn, they're in my head. This brand just gets me. I like every single thing that they drop. So for this one, I want to talk about Reformation. This is the sustainable clothing brand, right? They're not just selling clothing, they're selling the feeling of being effortlessly cool. And their copy, their branding, how they show up on social media sounds like your cool friend that knows how to dress well, but they also care about the environment. And essentially when you buy into that brand, you're buying into that feeling, and that's how you end up feeling yourself. So that is resonance. It's not about what they're selling, but what you feel about yourself when you buy the product. Now let's go into number 2, which is recognition, aka emotional familiarity. Recognition is what makes your brand stick in people's mind, even if they've only seen it once. This is about familiarity, the tone you use, the way you show up, your visuals, the way your brand behaves. When you show up with consistency, you become easier to trust. And people trust what feels familiar to them. And familiarity actually creates preference even over something that's technically better. Which means that if your product or your brand or your content feels familiar to the person that's watching or purchasing, even if there's something better out there, they're still going to prefer your brand. This is why it's very important to develop this within your brand strategy. For example, think of brands like Glossier. Like, you know that when you see that soft blush pink, you know it's them. Their visuals, their tone of voice, the way they show up consistently, that is familiar to you. You know who it is before even seeing the logo. Same with, for example, Skims. They show up consistently the same. And this kind of ties into, I'm sure you've heard of this, when people say like, if Skims were to create a whole hotel, you in your mind can actually picture what that hotel would look like without them even saying anything. That is because the brand has built familiarity in your head and you can easily recognize it and connect with it. Or think of your favorite creator, for example, Monet McMichael. She shows up consistently with the same energy and the same style of content, which makes her feel less like a stranger and more as a literal friend of yours. And that's why you watch, subscribe, and engage with everything that she puts out. Now, number 3 is repetition, aka behavior that builds memory. Repetition is how you turn brand recognition to brand memory. This is about showing up with the same POV, the same tone, the same style every single time to build that emotional patterning. Because when people learn your brand, they feel safe with it. And when they feel safe with it, it sticks in their brain. I want you to remember these 3 things about repetition. Number 1, repetition creates brand reliability. Number 2, it builds pattern recognition that the brain absolutely loves. And lastly, it makes you the default in your space. This is essentially the same thing as what you've been probably hearing around that people are calling comfort creators or comfort brands. To give you an example of repetition, I'm gonna bring up Duolingo. I'm sure you've seen it on TikTok. They have the same mascot, the same skits, the same vibe, like you know exactly what to expect from them time and time again. Or think of a founder or, as I said earlier, a content creator that you really love, that they always show up with the same iced coffee in hand or the same style nails or accessories or whatever, and their same no bullshit tone. You know, again, what to expect from them time and time again. And you end up feeling like you know her even if you actually don't. That is the key of repetition. Hello. Okay, so I'm just gonna interrupt really quick because you're gonna realize that in the next few clips, the audio is different. And that is because the mic stopped working. If you follow us on Instagram, you know the chaos that occurred the day that I was filming this YouTube video. The camera stopped working, the SD card stopped working, camera died at another point, and now I realize that the mic also stopped working. And a huge part of me wanted to re-record this entire video because of that, but I had to force myself to get over that because that's me being a perfectionist, and that's gonna continue stopping me from actually starting our channel and posting these videos. So I just wanted this to be kind of like a mini lesson to you, because honestly, a lot of us waste time waiting for things to be perfect instead of getting it out on the world and just continuing and using that momentum to keep things moving. So I hope this inspires you to just post, launch, do the thing, and get better as time goes on. Forgive me for the audio. I promise you it won't happen again. I hate bad audio, specifically inconsistent audio. But it happened and there's nothing I can do about it. All right, that's all. Let's continue with the video. Now that I've explained to you what each of the R's mean, I'm gonna go ahead and break down the 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself for each one, and then the 3 action steps for you to take for each one. Let's start with number 1, which is resonance, aka mirroring identity. The 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself are, number 1, who do I want my audience to feel like when they interact with my content and my brand? So if you're a brand photographer, for example, you want them to feel like you are a booked out expert and not just someone that's kind of figuring it out. Or if you're a wellness coach, maybe you want them to feel like someone who deserves rest and they don't necessarily have to earn it. Question number 2 is, does my messaging and my content reflect the beliefs, the energy, and the identity? So for example, if you sell digital planners, perhaps your brand messaging is that structure doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have any free time. Maybe that you just live an easier life. These are the type of things that I want you to take into consideration when you're creating your content, when you're creating the writing that goes on top of your videos, your captions, your stories, etc. And then question number 3 is, would they see my content and feel like this was made for me? For example, if you are a business mindset coach, perhaps your brand messaging is, you're not behind, you're building with intention. Essentially things that would make someone be like, this is literally me, like I feel seen. So those are the 3 questions. Now the 3 action steps that I want you to take is, number 1, I want you to write down 3 emotional traits that your audience aligns with. For example, they're driven, maybe they're soft girl energy, maybe they're independent, but be very, very clear on these emotional traits because you're gonna obviously use them through your brand messaging, your content, etc. So once you figure out these 3 traits, the second action step that I want you to take is, I want you to review your last 5 to 6 posts and analyze if those traits are reflected in the tone, the messaging, the aesthetic, etc. And I want you to really make sure that you deep dive into every single post. And if you haven't really been posting on your feed, maybe look at your stories instead. And then the last action step that I want you to take for the resonance piece is that I want you to write 1 piece of content this week, whether it's an Instagram story, a reel, a TikTok, a carousel, whatever, that speaks directly to one of those identities and not necessarily a pain point. And the reason for that is because I want you to begin getting used to having these emotional traits and these identities at the forefront of your mind every single time that you create content. Now let's go into number 2, which is resonance, aka emotional familiarity. The 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself are, number 1, if I were to remove my name or my username from this piece of content, would they still know that this is mine? And honestly, this is a topic that I can go on and on, and I probably will in a different video. Basically just shines a light on the importance of not copying other people's style and just really figuring out your own. Question number 2 is my tone and energy consistent throughout all platforms? So obviously I know that you know that every platform has sort of a different strategy, but that does not mean that your tone and your energy should be changing. Your tone and energy and your branding as a whole should be consistent across every single platform. The whole point of different platforms is just to get different sides and pieces of your same brand, but not different brands, because we don't want to create confusion. So for example, maybe on Instagram you get the more curated vibe, and then on TikTok you get the more organic behind the scenes vibe of your brand, but the messaging, the tone, and the energy should absolutely stay the same. It shouldn't feel like 2 completely different brands. And then the last question is, do I have a recognizable point of view or opinion that people could describe in one line? This is when you think of someone that holds a very strong belief that they stand by. When you think of them, you think of this belief. For example, if it's a content creator that talks about hormones and PCOS and foods that are good for you, then maybe you'll know like so-and-so is against seed oils or whatever. Like obviously that's a very basic example, but this is that belief that you want to stand by and stand true to so that people recognize you for it. For example, for me personally in my agency, we're not big on trends. I don't really like trends. We don't really use a lot of trends with our clients, and people know this. And so when we speak on not using trends as much and the downside of only using trends, etc., we're continuously engraving that in people's minds so that when they think of trends and why not to use them, they can think of self. Another example would be if you're a food blogger, maybe your POV is that healthy foods don't have to be complicated. So those are the beliefs and the point of views that you want to solidify in your content and your branding that you can be known for. Now, the 3 action steps that I want you to take towards recognition is, number 1, I want you to pick a signature phrase, a visual anchor, whether it's a color, whether it's a filter or a font, and one specific point of view, and truly commit to using them in every single platform. Now, number 2, I want you to audit your website, your Instagram, your TikTok, and all the platforms that you show up on. And if you only show up in one platform, then audit the different parts of the platform. So like for example, on Instagram stories, your bio, your highlights, and your feed. Does your brand voice match across all of these pieces? And whether it does or whether it doesn't, I want you to do number 3, create a mini brand cheat sheet. Essentially, this is where you're gonna write down, this is how my brand sounds, feels, and how it shows up visually. And I want you to use that almost like a checklist so that every time you post a specific piece of content or you're creating a piece of content, you can compare it and make sure that it aligns. Now let's get into number 3, which is repetition, aka brand behavior that builds memory. The focus here is essentially how your brand shows up repeatedly over time across experiences and exposures and content. Number 1, am I showing up with the same emotional energy every single time? So for example, if you are a wellness brand, maybe you're always showing up calm, cool, collected, and grounded. Maybe if you are a business coach, that's like a tough love type of vibe, you're always showing up with like a hot take and that sort of emotional energy to your brand. All right, now number 2 is, am I repeating my key messages enough that they stick? Essentially memory building. So this is the piece that I always talk about, which is you don't have to be posting brand new pieces of content every single day, creating new POVs every day. You should have the exact same core messaging and core opinions and repeating them time and time again through your content. And the last question is, do I show up in ways that my audience begins to anticipate? So this is in the structure of the content, this is in the visual cues of the content. You want to make sure that your audience knows what to expect from you every single time. And here are the 3 action steps. So number 1, I want you to pick 1 to 2 brand behaviors that you repeat every single week. My biggest tip is to do this specifically through your stories. Pick something that you share or that you post on your stories that repeats every single week, if not every day. So for example, we have clients that will post a quote of the day. We have clients that will post schedules of the day. We have, honestly, for myself, for my own agency, I do post that pretty often repeatedly, so people know to expect that and they engage with it and they like it and they end up building that repetition in their brain. Number 2, I want you to choose 1 core belief or framework that you want to be known for, and I need you to reinforce that through your content at least 3 times per month so that it starts in a way echoing back to you. And then number 3, I want you to create kind of like a rhythm in the way that you show up. So I'm not saying that you have to have a very rigid schedule with your content and your brand, but I do want you to decide what are the pieces of content that I know that I can consistently recreate. If you are somebody that struggles recording videos and content, maybe you want to focus more on carousels and really lean into that and post them more consistently. I think the biggest mistake that people make is that they just create whatever they can. They have no structure, they have no schedule, they have no rhythm for how they're creating and showing up. Their audience is very confused. So one day you post a reel, and then 2 weeks later you post a carousel, and then 3 weeks later you post a vlog, and you have low engagement because it is unexpected, because people don't really understand the rhythm and they don't understand what to expect from your pieces of content. As I said, you don't have to have a strict schedule, meaning Monday's a carousel, Tuesday this, although if that helps you, you can totally develop that. But you do want to figure out the pieces and styles of content that you can continue recreating them time and time again. Now, I know that recognition and repetition, they seem very similar, and it's because they are, but they have different roles. I want you to think of recognition as who you are in the moment, and repetition is basically how you behave over time. So that's the key difference in between the two. But keep in mind that the 3 R's all work cohesively with each other. So they should be similar, but they have and they play different roles, all 3 that you have to incorporate into your brand and your content. All right, so let's recap. We talked about what makes a brand magnetic, how to build one, and the 3 R's of brand obsession: resonance, recognition, and repetition. I gave you the questions you have to ask yourself and the action steps for you to take, so now you really have absolutely no excuse to not build a magnetic brand. I do want to remind you though that things take time. So even though this is the framework and these things when applied really truly work, it's still gonna take time. So do not get discouraged, give yourself grace and have patience through the process, because building a magnetic brand and attracting a community of people that are obsessed with you and obsessed with your brand is not easy, and it takes time. I do hope that this was helpful, and of course any questions that you have, you can leave them below in the comments or DM us at Selfie Agency on Instagram, and I'll always get back to you and help you as much as I can. And obviously this was just our first video of many. Any topics that you have in mind that you want us to talk about or cover, definitely let us know. I do plan on doing a lot more deep dives into strategy, tips, and just like the business owner life. I do want to also bring you behind the scenes of self and what we're building and our daily life, so expect some vlogs as well. If you're still here, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.